Wide angle, telephoto, what the heck do all these things mean? Well, we're about to find out. What's going on, everybody? If you're new around here, my name's Finn Batchley. I'm a commercial fashion portrait photographer, and today I'm walking you through the difference between a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens and why you would want to choose one over the other in certain circumstances. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to be using 50 millimeters on a full frame or 35 millimeter body as our kind of standard lens here. Anything wider than that we're referring to as a wide angle lens, and anything longer than that we'll be referring to as a telephoto lens. People are drag racing on my street. This is great. There's a lot of differences between the two, some more subtle than others, and these differences will help you choose which one you would want to use for certain circumstances and why. So jumping right in, a wide angle lens similar to this one here, the 17 to 40, 16 to 35, anything like that, those are zooms, but their range is still all in the wide kind of category here. So these lenses are going to give you more distortion, kind of bowing things out along the edges of the frame specifically. If you get really close up to somebody, that's when you see their face kind of get all long and distorted, their nose is really far to the camera, their ears are really behind, all that sort of stuff. So what you're going to get with something like this is more depth of field, more in focus in your frame, no matter what aperture you're at. It's also going to have more of the background in your shot than if you're on something longer. Basically, the effect these lenses create is pulling the closer things to the camera closer and pushing the farther things away. So it kind of creates a lot of separation there. That's why the background will appear smaller and you'll have more background there. That's why these are really handy for a lot of landscapes. You can get a wide mass amount of that landscape in there. This is also why a lot of people tend to shy away from them for portraits, because the focus will be less on the person and more on the person and the environment. Now, myself, I love using these for environmental portraits and for kind of stylistic fashion shots. It has a really neat look to it, and I love something like a 35. That's me personally. I'll let you make your own decision. Another thing that these lenses enable you to do is get closer to your subject. Now, sometimes this isn't exactly what you want to do, but also if you're in a small room or you don't have a lot of space, this is where these lenses can come in handy. Because these lenses are wider, you are able to get closer to your subject, and if you're in a small space, it allows you to be able to still get that kind of crop that you're looking for. This is why a lot of people will use them for real estate shots and interiors, because they allow you to get the full room in the frame, even if the room is quite tiny and you don't exactly have a lot of space to work with. Myself, I used to do real estate quite a lot, and I would always gravitate towards something like a 16 or 17 millimeter because it allows you to get that full room in the shot without too much distortion making it look unrealistic, which is something you don't really want when you're going to be bringing people in to see something that they'll be spending a lot of money on. Now, jumping ahead to telephoto lenses. These are the ones longer than 50 millimeters, so 85, 100, 200, 135, anything beyond that. A very common example, again we're using some zooms here, is a 70 to 200. Very versatile lens, and it allows for a lot of what we call compression. Basically, it's going to have less of the background in the frame. The background will be more out of focus, and the focus will be more on your subject in the foreground. So unlike the wide angles where you can kind of get more in the frame even if you are close up, these you typically need to back up a little further to get what you want in the shot. These lenses are also ideal for that blurry background, that bokeh that everybody loves. It's like your OG portrait mode, if we want to call it that. The other handy thing, and why a lot of people gravitate towards these lenses for portraits, is they have a lot less distortion. Everything kind of looks a little more true to life, especially in facial features. It can be a lot more flattering for your subject, especially because you're not going to have that weird kind of bowing effect, and it'll just look a lot more pleasing and a lot more natural and make everybody happy. So getting all the kind of nerdy technical stuff out of the way, why would you want to use either of these lenses? Well, the kind of tried and true method is that wide angles are more for landscapes, interiors, that kind of thing, and telephoto lenses are more for portraits and that kind of thing. Well, I'm here to kind of break some of those stereotypes just a little bit, because like anything else, these may be rules, but rules are meant to be broken. Now, that said, these rules are also there mainly for when you're starting out, so you don't go to do a portrait with somebody and their face looks like a giant elongated egg looking thing and then they're not happy. So if you're just starting out, typically stick to these kind of tried and true rules, but if you're looking to branch out of that a little bit, well, this may be helpful. Like I said earlier, some people hate using anything wide for portraits. Myself, I love a good 35mm environmental portrait or fashion shot. A lot of my work, especially when you want to incorporate the background and create more of a story there, can lend itself to a 35mm or any kind of wide lens very well. You'll also hear people say to only use wide angles for landscapes. I am not one of these people. You can get a great landscape shot on a 200mm. Why? Because it all depends on how you frame things and how you look at it. If you want to punch in to just show a specific part of the landscape, a telephoto is going to do that beautifully for you, whereas a wide angle, it's just going to kind of blur into the whole thing itself, and there's nothing really that'll stand out there. So basically, do with this information what you will, play around with a lot of the lenses, and figure out what you like. This is all kind of part of figuring out your style. Play around, figure out what suits your style, what you enjoy looking at, what you enjoy working with, and then lean into that. Myself, I love bouncing kind of between like a 35, 85, maybe kind of bridging the middle with a 50 every now and then. But generally I like to kind of switch it up between the two because there's enough differentiation there, and it allows me to get a variety of shots that just look good together when put side by side. A lot of times I'll do like an environmental portrait or like a full body kind of shot on a 35mm and then punch in for some details on an 85. So these are all kind of things that you can keep in the back of your mind when you go out shooting and know how to really use these lenses to the best of your ability. And a lot of these are just suggestions from my personal experience and things that I've seen and learned over the years, and you'll come to your own understanding of what works for you. But with that all said, if you got something out of this video, if you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave a comment down below if you like this kind of thing, if you want to see more of it from me in the future. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.